The prince is dead. Jacaerys Targaryen, son of Rhaenyra Targaryen and Laenor Velaryon, although his parentage is disputed, fell in the Battle of the Gullet, a turning point in the 2-year civil war known as the Dance of Dragons. Rhaenyra still has 3 other sons, Princes Joffrey, Viserys II and Aegon, not to be confused with the usurper King Aegon the last we saw them. They were bound for the safety of Pentos across the sea on the continent of Essos. They were supposed to be chaperoned by their half-sister Rhaena Targaryen, who abandoned them to tame the wild dragon known as Sheepstealer. We'll get to her in a bit. The Battle of the Gullet was considered a Pyrrhic victory for Rhaenyra. It came at the cost of thousands of men, 1/3 of Corlys Velaryon's fleet, the sacking of Spicetown and Hytide, and the death of both Jacaerys and his dragon Vermax. In a moment of weakness, Rhaenyra will question to her husband and uncle, Daemon Targaryen, if it was all worth it just so she could sit on a throne of swords. We are one step closer to the end of the dragons. As you'll recall, 78 years later, during the events of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, they're considered extinct. When it comes to the Battle of the Gullet, there are several major departures from the book. Fire and Blood has the dragon seeds Hugh Hammer, Ulf and Adam of Hull fighting in this battle from the very beginning, with the show implying they arrived at the end when the battle had already been fought. Then there's Nettles, the rider of Sheepstealer, which the show has seemingly merged with Rhaena. Baela never fought in the battle, and the dynamic of her sister being responsible for Jacaerys' death is entirely new for the show. Finally, there's the capture of Prince Viserys II by the Triarchy. As far as we know in the show, Joffrey, Viserys and Aegon are still safely making their way to Pentos. Baela takes the body of Jace back to the safety of Dragonstone, the ancestral seat of House Targaryen. His body is never recovered. In the book, Baela was betrothed to Jace back in Season 1, as part of a package deal that included Lucerys marrying Rhaena. This meant Valyrian blood would eventually sit on both the Iron Throne and Driftmark. A contentious matter at the time, as Corlys' brother Vaemond was actively petitioning to strip Luke of his status as heir to Driftmark due to rumors he was the son of Sir Harwin Strong and not Rhaenyra's husband, Laenor Velaryon. In return, Rhaenys would have publicly thrown her support for Luke's claim, and the two families would be united in the coming war. In her shock, Rhaenyra acts as though her son is not dead. She was locked in her chambers by him and member of the Queensguard, Sir Laurent, in an effort to keep her safe from battle. In the book, Rhaenyra is never locked away. Instead, she stays on Dragonstone, as 5 of her dragons were deemed more than enough to take on the fleet. While Sir Laurent offers himself to be executed for his folly, Rhaenyra states that won't bring back her son. However, later in the episode, she'll state he can choose how he wants to die. Meanwhile, Alan of Hull, the bastard son of Corlys Velaryon, looks for his father amongst the dead. The last we saw the Sea Snake, he was thrown overboard while battling the Triarchy commander Shirako Lohar. He'll later be joined in his search by his half-niece Baela. Unlike Baela, Alan never knew what it was like growing up with Corlys and asked her the type of man that he was. We'll later find Corlys alive watching the ruins of Tide, a place he amassed countless treasures during his famous 9 great voyages. In the book, High Tide is sacked and set ablaze, and here Corlys tells Alan the only thing he can give him now is a name. Currently, Alan is known as Alan of Hull, Hull being the place he was born and raised. Corlys actually doesn't have the legal authority to remove the taint of bastardy from Alan. That can only be done by the reigning king or queen. However, since Corlys is hand of the queen, he could probably put in a good word. Rhaena has arrived back in the Vale seeking the safety of Lady Jane Arryn, Rhaenyra's half-cousin. She can't go back to Dragonstone considering her abandonment of the little princes and the mess she made at the Gullet. To top it off, she learns from Lady Arryn that Jace was killed. Rhaena wants asylum, but Lady Arryn isn't going to jeopardize her standing with the queen. That is until Rhaena makes an unusual deal. Prior to Rhaena arriving Vale with the little princes, Lady Jane Arryn was promised a dragon. However, she was pissed when the dragons that came were too small and couldn't be flown, let alone defend the Vale. I do not recall you specifying the size of the beast in your request. Goaded me, child. So when Rhaena comes offering the protection of Sheepstealer, it's almost as if she's getting what was rightfully owed. According to Rhaena, no one saw that it was her on Sheepstealer. In fact, we'll hear Rhaenyra and Daemon briefly discuss this matter, with Rhaenyra instructing Daemon to find out who this rider was, fearing that one of Aegon's men had claimed a wild dragon. Lady Arryn basically says, "Look, I can't tell a dragon where it can go, just stay out of my sight." So right now, Rhaena's storyline, much like my love life, is on hold. Jason Lannister has seen a better days after losing his head last episode at the Battle of the Lakeshore, a fight that was never actually seen on screen. You might remember Jason as the Lord of Casterly Rock who courted Rhaenyra in Season 1. He's the twin brother of Tyland Lannister, who's currently MIA after being thrown off Shirako Lohar's ship, the Fist, during the Battle of the Gullet. You'll hear the men sing a song with the words "fish feed," which was the nickname given to the Battle of the Lakeshore, as it is said so many men fell among the waters that the corpses practically fed the fish. Among the revelers are Daemon Targaryen, fresh off his win at the Battle of Red Fork, which we saw briefly last episode. The Red Fork is one of 3 main rivers in the Riverlands northwest of Harrenhal. There's also Sir Roderick Dustin, the Lord of Barrowton, who brought with him over 2,000 northern soldiers known as the Winter Wolves. And then there's Oscar Tully, Lord of the Riverlands. It's also easy to miss this woman, Alysanne Blackwood, also known as Black Ally. She'll go on to marry Cregan Stark, the Lord of Winterfell. Daemon's feast is interrupted by Sir Simon Strong, the castellan of Harrenhal and great-uncle to current Master of Whispers Larry Strong. He's come with wine and the grave news of Jackery's passing. Daemon is to head to Dragonstone where he'll ride alongside the Queen to take King's Landing. This is all part of Queen Alicent's plan to have Rhaenyra take back the city in a bloodless coup, or should I say somewhat bloodless coup. This gorgeous shot of Daemon's dragon Caraxes gives way to the Witch of Harrenhal, Alys Rivers. She ominously tells the warrior prince that his coming is an omen of the end of many things and the beginning of others. In the finale of Season 2, Alys showed a Daemon a vision of the future when he touched the weirwood tree. A future which saw the coming of the Night King, the birth of Daenerys Targaryens, dragons and his own death. So Alys' words here have a double meaning. That is, if you believe her words to be true. One, that we are about to see the end of Daemon, and two, the beginning of the events known as the Song of Ice and Fire. It was way back in Season 1 that King Viserys I, on deciding Rhaenyra would be queen, passed on the prophetic dream of Aegon the Conqueror, in which a great darkness would sweep over the world, and only a Targaryen seated on the Iron Throne would be strong enough to unite the realms against the cold and dark. Alys Rivers was instrumental in Daemon's strategic maneuvering in the Riverlands, when it came to gaining the support of Lord Grover Tully, who was reticent to join Rhaenyra's cause. She told Daemon to do nothing, promising him that in 3 days' time the winds will shift. 3 days later Grover had conveniently died, allowing Oscar Tully, his grandson, to take power and align himself with Daemon. Alys says this brought to Daemon 40,000 men, and it's heavily implied in the show that Alys was involved in Grover Tully's death, whether through poison or witchcraft. Now Alys has come to collect in recognition of her service. She wants Harrenhal, a price Daemon believes too high a cost for a mere midwife with no name, title or noble husband. But perhaps there is some other prize she could have. But Alys is insistent, nothing else will satiate her but Harrenhal. Something about this place and its connection to magic longs for her and vice versa. It doesn't look like she's going to get what she wants, and she leaves Daemon with a warning. Do not come back here, remember I told you, hearkening back to his vision that he will die there. If you've ever had a chilly car ride with your wife, you'll know what it's like taking a carriage with Lord Larys and King Aegon. Last episode, in order to save their lives, Larys revealed their true identities to soldiers from House Stanton, a house aligned with Queen Rhaenyra. They are to be taken to Duskendale and shipped to Dragonstone to face the Queen's justice. Luckily, things have a way of turning out for the enfeebled king. Remnants of the Triarchy ambush their caravan, allowing them to escape. Aegon even gets in a quick little stabby-stabby. Larys has enough gold with him to buy their way to the Iron Bank in Bravos, the place he secretly ushered all of Harrenhal's wealth before leaving King's Landing. The plan was to let Rhaenyra and Aemon tear themselves apart, and when the dust settled, roll back into King's Landing and install Aegon as king. But as we'll see later, Larys is playing both sides. Aegon refuses to go to Duskendale and instead makes his way to Rook's Rest, the place where he was severely burned in battle. We aren't sure as to the status of his dragon, only that in episode 205 a garrison was left to look after it, as Sir Criston Cole said it was, quote, long in the dying. In the book, his dragon Sunfyre survives the Battle of Rook's Rest, but with a severely injured wing, rendering him unable to fly at least for the time being. Speaking of dragons, V. Hagar has left King's Landing with his rider Prince Aemon. Last episode, Alicent entreated Aemon to make his way to Harrenhal to engage Daemon in one-on-one battle. In reality, this was a ploy to get him out of King's Landing so Rhaenyra could take over. Alicent has come to parley with Commander of the City Watch, Sir Luther Largent. She knows he would be sympathetic to Rhaenyra's cause considering his long-time friendship with Daemon. It was Daemon who made Sir Luther a member of the City Watch when he was a commander back in the day. Alicent wants to ensure there is as little bloodshed when Rhaenyra arrives, and doing so involves the watchmen and soldiers of the Red Keep to stand down. Luckily, Alicent has the authority of Queen Helena behind her, who upon Aemon's departure from the city has full authority. Ulf and Hugh are reprimanded by Daemon for leaving their post. This has to be especially shameful for Ulf, as he believes he's the son of Balon Targaryen, making him half-brothers to Daemon and the late King Viserys. Ulf, Hugh, and Adam were under strict orders to stay at Harrenhal in the event of V. Hagar were to attack, and now that castle is basically defenseless. They left their post as Alice said their help was needed in the gullet. Well, that and there was just a creepy vibe there. However, this might all be part of a greater plan Alice is willing or unwillingly a part of, as this sequence of events will eventually lead Aemon to right into her lap. Daemon has a one-on-one with his former paramour Mysaria. The two have a sordid history. Mysaria once sold information to Otto Hightower, making her untrustworthy. Daemon's eyes. At the same time, she was instrumental in gathering intelligence that led to the successful assassination of Prince Jaehaerys, an event commonly known as Blood and Cheese. She also proved her worthiness to Queen Rhaenyra after alerting the Queen that Sir Rick Cargill had disguised himself as his twin brother in a failed assassination attempt. Mysaria could have easily left Dragonstone without disclosing this information. Aside from Mysaria having a romantic interest in Rhaenyra, she sees a mutual enemy in the Hightowers. To her, the Hightowers are the ultimate embodiment of the systemic cruelty she has spent her life fighting. In Season 1, Mysaria offered Otto Hightower the location of when he fled the Red Keep in exchange for the shutdown of the brutal child-fighting rings operating in Flea Bottom. Otto turned his back on this promise, demonstrating that he has a zero regard for the suffering of the small folk. Mysaria tells Daemon that he has not earned the queen's trust, and we'll see him attempting to rectify this as he shows his loyalty through strength, literally cutting down Rhaenyra's enemies as they come at them in the Red Keep. In preparation for Rhaenyra, Alicent demands a meeting of the small council and instructs Sir Rickard, a member of the Kingsguard, to fetch trusted Hightower Knight Sir Soren. As we'll soon see, Sir Rickard does anything but instead telling Lord of Laws Jasper Wilda of the Queen's treason. This is a scene that never happens in the book, and Jasper probably thinks he can get away with it using his knowledge of her treason as blackmail. There's a great Easter egg with a turtle paperweight Alicent uses to fend off Jasper. The turtle is the sigil for House Estermont, House Wilda's rival in the Stormlands. Additionally, when creator George R. R. Martin was a child, he'd imagine his pet turtles as rival lords and knights scheming, warring, and assassinating each other for control of the castle. In the book, Jasper goes by the nickname the Iron Rod, which the account of Mushroom states comes from the stiffness of his member. He sired 29 children from 4 wives, the last of whom died of exhaustion, so him being a horned dog checks out. Luckily, Jasper is stopped with the entrance of Grand Maester Orwell and Sir Soren. It's this part of the episode we really start to see who will be loyal to Aegon and who is willing to welcome the Dragon Queen. Rhaenyra heads for King's Landing. As usual, Lord Bartimos Celtigar and Maester Gerardes warn her not to go. That's part of the reason Rhaenyra has been attracted to Mysaria. Unlike the men on her Black Council, Mysaria always seems to offer a different perspective, and one which doesn't denigrate her as this weak woman who always needs to be protected. She's there with Rhaenyra's crown and hopes that she will send for her upon her arrival. Even though Daemon expresses his distrust in Mysaria, Rhaenyra simply states she does not need his approval. Meanwhile, Daemon orders Hugh and Ulf to fly cover as they take the city. It'll be a test if these two can actually follow orders after their disobedience at Harrenhal. In the courtyard, Queen Helena remarks how strange it is to see a caterpillar this time of year. Like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, it foreshadows the change to come. Every time Helena has seen a bug, insect, or animal, it's foreshadowed something very bad. While playing with a millipede, she predicted Aemond would lose an eye. While looking at a spider, she spoke of a hand turning. A loom weaving green and black threads, prophesizing the impending civil war between the Greens and the Blacks. Her repeated fear of rats foreshadowed the death of her son by the rat catcher's blood and cheese. And finally, there's her mention of the beast beneath the boards, which foreshadowed Rhaenys Targaryen's dragon Melis bursting through the floors of the dragon pit during Aegon's coronation. Helena also has with her a book depicting a butterfly titled Alirion or Alishan. Noth is an island northwest of Sotharios in the Summer Sea. It's where Daenerys' herald Missandei is from. The island is home to butterflies which carry a deadly plague known as butterfly fever, killing those around it. If this particular butterfly is called Alishan, it might be a play on Alicent, who you could argue is a plague that has killed many around her. When Alicent first approaches her daughter and informs her of Rhaenyra's impending invasion, Helena asks, "Will there be a battle?" Helena might have been thinking her mother was coming to ask her to take up her dragon, Dreamfire, in the city's defense. In the Season 2 finale, Helena told Aemond she wouldn't accompany him on her dragon to Harrenhal. However, that doesn't mean she might ride Dreamfire if it means protecting those she loves. At this point in the book, Helena has been driven mad and is in no shape to ride. But with the amount of changes the show is making, anything is possible. Alicent needs Helena and her authority as queen to stand down the guards. And here we have Alicent openly admitting she made a mistake and can no longer say with assuredness that King Viserys wished Aegon to be his successor. She failed Helena's brothers, but perhaps with her actions she can save Helena and give her a life outside of court where she can raise chickens. You're going to die for some chickens. Someone is. The command to stand down is accompanied by some sensible rationale. Rhaenyra brings with her 4 dragons. The king has abdicated, the prince regent has fled, and this may be the only way to ensure peace. Will they burn in dragon fire or let the dragon queen in? Meanwhile, Criston Cole and Gwaine Hightower rejoice over the appearance of Vhagar. It means it's time they embark to Harrenhal. Harrenhal is under siege by Aemond, who takes over the embattled fortress just like his uncle did in Season 2. In fact, we'll see a lot of similarities between these two, like how they both enter the castle in the dining hall. Aemond, however, is not as forgiving when it comes to Sir Simon Strong. He slays him and his kin in cold blood, but not before a blade pierces him in the back. This puts him at the mercy of Alice Rivers. It's not every day you're injured right before a healer and a witch, no less. Remember that she wants Harrenhal. In return for helping him, will Aemond be willing to give her what Daemon was not? The arrival of the queen and her dragons has the citizens of King's Landing in a panic, and rightly so. They don't know if their city is about to be burned to the ground. In the book, this causes chaos, riots, and looting. In the crowd, we can see Hugh Hammer's wife, Cat. The last time he saw her, he promised he'd claim a dragon and make her a lady. We also see Ulf the Brandy bragging about being a Targaryen. Most of Aegon's men have either put down their weapons or fled, with a few diehards challenging Daemon as they make their way to the throne. The last of these usurpers' men include Sir Rickon of the Kingsguard, but once they see they're outmatched by Sir Lothar and the Cloaks, they put down their arms and are imprisoned. Rhaenyra demands the head of King Aegon. She doesn't yet know that the king has fled. Neither did Alicent for that matter when she entreated Rhaenyra at the end of Season 2. Aegon's head was a part of their deal. Grand Maester Oral once again finds himself on the chopping block after it was only the other day he was narrowly killed by Aemond. No doubt the future isn't looking good for him considering he was an integral part of Aegon's small council. Orwell leads Daemon to the cells beneath the Red Keep where former Targaryen loyalists like Lord Merryweather and Lady Fell were imprisoned following the takeover of King Aegon. It's a kind of changing of the guard as those prisoners are released and Aegon loyalists put in their stead. But the biggest surprise comes from Larry Strong and is a reminder just how he's playing on both sides. Larry's had former hand of the king and grandsire to King Aegon Otto Hight were imprisoned. This was actually hinted at briefly with the shot from the Season 2 finale. In the books, when Aegon II relieves Otto of his duties he simply goes back to Old Town. But here he's been imprisoned. Throughout Season 2 Alicent tried to get in touch with her father to no avail, even telling her brother she's concerned. I'm guessing Aegon didn't know either as the jailer explicitly slay Otto herself. This is a big deal for Rhaenyra. Not only would she be killing the father of her childhood friend, a man she would have grown up with and served her father as hand, it would be her first direct kill. While Rhaenyra has ordered the deaths of others, we've never seen her physically kill someone herself. Combine this with everyone looking on as to what she'll do next, emotions run high. Daemon gives his sword Dark Sister to Rhaenyra, one of 2 legendary Valyrian steel swords of House Targaryen, the other being Blackfyre, which once belonged to Aegon the Conqueror and King Viserys. Over 35 years earlier, Rhaenyra's grandfather Prince Balon used this very sword to avenge the death of his brother Prince Aemon. It takes 2 hacks to behead the former hand of the king. Juxtapose this to Daemon, who whacks off Jasper's head without an ounce of thought. Rhaenyra will have to balance the ideals of being a just ruler with a strong one. There's some beautiful imagery with her blood stained boots trailing up to the throne as we can see her reflection in a pool of Otto's blood. This is the first time we've ever seen Rhaenyra actually sit on the Iron Throne. But the episode ends with Alicent and Helaena brought forward in front of the dead body of their father and grandfather. This was never part of Alicent's deal. Then again, she never knew her father was imprisoned in the cells below. We saw Alicent, Helaena and Rhaenyra attempt to flee King's Landing, but they were easily. Until next time, remember Daddy loves you very much.